Hey, Jen, we're back.
Hi.
I am ready for you, my dear.
Woohoo! Let's do this. I lost my pen. Okay. So what we're going to do today is we're going to do a neuro-linguistic programming technique. And they're really simple and easy, for lack of better descriptors, because it's all in the words that your brain uses to make certain connections. So unraveling some of that stuff is very simple, for lack of better descriptors. Like it's not invasive. It is kind of in the middle of it. When I've done it for myself, I've been like, the first time we did it, I actually did the technique I'm going to do with you today. And the issue I picked was that I was having a lot of physical body pain from the Lyme disease. And in the middle of it, I remember thinking, I don't know what they think is happening, but this isn't going to fix this issue at all. And then randomly, like, all of the pain was gone, and I was like, what is this even? Like, how did this even happen? So it's one of my favorite techniques, and I use it a lot no matter what the frustration, resentment, irritation, whatever the issue is, I use this technique. It's a really good go-to.
Oh, beautiful.
So the issue that you had shared with me that you were frustrated with is when you come up against someone who has not just resistance to what we're doing, but just ignorance, right?
And frustration, like, okay, you guys are all crazy. You all need to wear tin hats.
Yes. Okay, perfect. So when you experience those sensations, do you feel that in your body physically?
Yeah, my shoulders.
Shoulders. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you had to pick a color for what color that feeling is in your shoulders, what color would it be?
Gray muck.
Gray muck. Love it. How big is it?
How big is the color?
Is the feeling on your shoulders? Yep.
It's, I don't know about big. It's incensing. It incenses me.
Okay. Is there a size?
Not really.
Is it heavy or light?
Oh, it's heavy.
Okay. Is it body temperature, warmer or colder?
Well, my body temperature goes up because the red starts to go, so probably warmer.
Okay. Is it rough or is it smooth?
Rough.
Is it opaque or is it transparent?
Oh, opaque.
Is it moving or is it still?
It's still.
Okay. And it's that heavy stillness, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Is there a sound associated with it?
Wah, wah, wah. Charlie Brown's teacher.
Charlie Brown's teacher. I love it. Perfect. And now if you would just close your eyes and take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And go ahead and thank your subconscious mind because it did an amazing job answering these questions for us. And in a moment, I'm going to count from 1. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to clap my hands like this. And when I clap my hands like that, you will notice that this has changed in some way, in a way that is beneficial for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and do this. This is going to make it easier for you to do what you need to do, what you ought to do, even consciously. So 1, 2, 3. Go ahead and take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. Go ahead and open your eyes and just scan your body. Now, when you think about that experience, where do you feel that at now? Has that changed?
I don't know that I feel it.
So it's gone completely.
I don't feel it.
I love it.
Am I supposed to feel it?
No, not if this works perfectly, no. I just wasn't prepared for it to work perfectly. For many people, it takes a few times through this work. So we'll do this once and they'll say, well, it changed from my shoulders to my throat or my shoulders to my head. And then we'll go through this cycle again. And if the goal is to get it as small as possible or to eliminate it completely, but you just skipped all those steps and eliminated it completely. So that's awesome.
Should I come up with another problem, Jen, so you can show your mettle?
Maybe. But literally, it's that easy. It can be that simple.
How can that happen? I don't get it. How can that be that simple?
Because, so what neurolinguistic programming is it's the language of our subconscious mind. And so what we did was we unraveled that thought process in such a way using that wording that it now is not even, it's not going to come back on your shoulders anymore. It can't go there anymore. You've changed that programming. So now you're no longer taking on other people's frustrations about not getting it.
Oh, that's it.
Yes.
Oh, that's powerful. Oh, that's really good.
Right?
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It's not my issue.
No, because you know this stuff is real. You know what we're all doing is very powerful and life-changing and life-altering, but they don't get it. And when they don't get it, they want you to take on their frustration. And now you're going to be like, that sucks for you. Next.
Yeah. Well, it's also more that it's just like, I want everybody to experience this.
Right.
It is time. Let's go, guys. Let's open ourselves up to this. And yeah.
Yes.
And then
yes.
That's when it gets really frustrating, but.
Yes. 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 Agreed.
Yeah.
So it's literally that simple. And I've done this same technique with people who have anxiety about certain things, who have fears, doubts, worries. It's just, it can be that quick or it can be a few more minutes longer, but it's not intense. It's not so deep and ugly that you want to gouge out your own eyes. I mean, it's really kind of simple, but it makes long-term lasting change.
So at some point so now I will notice a difference. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
When
and so how I suspect that'll manifest for you is I suspect that when you encounter those people, you'll have a different level of awareness about what's going on. And so in the past where you would take that frustration, you'd be like, I really wanted them to experience that. Now you'll be like, wow, I'm kind of sad that they're too closed-minded to experience this. But on to my next mission because I got lots of things to do.
Right. Yeah. No, that makes sense though. Yeah, definitely. From the standpoint, I really want you to experience this, but if you're not ready, I got to say, okay.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And at that point, that is about me who has to back off.
Right. Right. Yes.
Oh, thank you, dear.
You're welcome.
Well, that was fast. Anything else you want to go over?
Have you ever used EFT?
No.
So what EFT is, it's the emotional freedom technique. It's also called tapping.
Oh, yes.
And I use it a lot with my clients. There is a way to eliminate or reduce negative thoughts, but I don't get that that's an issue for you. So what I typically do with people who are higher functioning is the only word in my brain, and that's not a polite term, but people who don't struggle with those mundane things like most of my clients struggle with, is we use EFT just to anchor in the affirmations.
Ah.
So it makes interacting with some of these people a lot smoother.
Mm-hmm.
So you could use EFT to say things like, I'm changing the world one person at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't have to mean it's not a loss if you're not able to change this person right now, because maybe it's just about planting the seeds. And maybe later they'll come back in and they'll be like, hey, you mentioned this a long time. This probably sounds crazy, but I think you mentioned this. Could we maybe chat about that? And you'll be like, yeah, sure. Come on in. Let's talk about it.
Oh, that's big, Jen.
Right.
How do I do that?
So there's a few points that you want to tap on. Typically, if you're eliminating a negative experience, you always want to start on the what they call the karate chop point, and you would just tap here. But because that's not your experience, I would encourage you just to maybe tap out. So when we start, we do it right where the eyebrow hair starts, and you just tap there, and you just say things like, I know I am changing the world one person at a time. I am loving that I am changing the world one person at a time.
Okay.
And you just keep saying that as you tap there, here, under the eye, under the nose, under the mouth, and then on the right underneath the collarbone, and then underneath the arm, and then on the top of the head. And it's really, Yeah, and it's really quick and it's easy. I've used it a lot. I use it a lot with my kids, actually, that come in to see me, because I don't necessarily want to endorse medication for people that aren't over 21.
Mhm.
So I like to teach them how to handle the stressors as they come in.
That's
So,
better.
right. So especially if I have an adolescent I'm working with right now who has a lot of test anxiety, even though the lowest grade she's ever gotten is like a B minus.
Oh, it
And
must be devastating for her. At least
it
they're not
is.
behind us.
Yes.
Cool.
And it blows my mind, because I'm like, okay. So I recognize where she's at. So what we do is we just tap out things like, even though I'm struggling with having the confidence to start this test, I deeply and completely love and accept myself. And then we just go through tapping through all those things. And what she has said is it takes her anxiety from like a 15 on a 1 to 10 scale down to a 2.
Wow. What a wonderful thing and it's simple. And
It's simple, it's easy, it's free. I mean, once you have the technique down, you can use it about anything, anywhere.
So really, you're giving yourself those affirmations.
Mm-hmm.
Because I did that in a session with somebody the other day.
Right.
Yeah. No, I get why we did that.
Yes. So there is a school of thought that says that if you just tap about those positive affirmations, it anchors it in. So it's more likely to be a part of you versus something that you're trying to absorb.
And so obviously this is that quick and that simple.
Yes.
It's instant results when you, right?
Yes. Yes. When I used EFT with one of my clients that I'd seen for probably 4 or 5 years, he has health issues similar to mine. He has chronic Lyme disease, on and on. And he came in one day and I felt a little overwhelmed because he starts the session by telling me that he's done. And I'm like,
uh-oh.
You're right. I'm like, done? What does done mean? That's not an option.
That's not a good word.
Yeah. And he's like, I texted my wife and told her not to grieve at my funeral. And I'm like,
Oh,
okay, we're going to have to simmer things down for a second. Let's try this. And so I personally didn't have a lot of buy-in to EFT until this moment. But like, we did 1 round of tapping, 1 round. And he went from 10 on a suicide scale to absolutely 0.
Wow.
0.
And why do you think that works so that fast? And that
I think a big piece of it is because there's a lot of research recently that says that EFT lowers cortisol. Cortisol is that hormone that's released when you have stress. And there's a lot of research that says 15 minutes of tapping a day substantially reduces cortisol. So I think that for a lot of people, it gives them that outlet and it helps them to feel like, hey, I took some action. I did some tapping today.
Right. I did something about it.
Yes.
So now I'm not helpless.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Very cool. Wow. Got any other good ones? Those are great.
Right? I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I wasn't expecting you to like respond that quickly to the first one. So
That's fine, but this is great. This is I just wanted everybody to see a little bit about what it all is.
Right. Well, and I will say that typically for some people do respond really quickly like that. And then you just know that it's going to be that much more exciting and better for them.
Yeah.
But typically the average of, I've never gone through the cycle more than 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
So typically it's no more than a 10 or 15 minute process.
Yeah. Okay, and so you and I will be going down this golden path together. So if you ever see me doing anything like this,
I'll be like, hey, we talked about this. Remember, this is not yours.
That's great. Thank you so much.
You're
Jenn.
welcome. Thank you so much. It was so fun.
Oh, great. I'm so glad you're with us.
Me too.
All right, talk to you next time.
Okay, bye.
Bye.